Thank you, absolutely everybody, for being here today, taking time out of your schedule. I hope that this webinar that we're going to give you today is going to give you something actionable to take back and use. And if not, it's going to give you some really valuable information as far as new and different ways that you can use Evolve, Revizto, and ArchKey is going to kind of run through what they're doing from their day-to-day stuff. So this is going to be MEP coordination made easy. It's ArchKey's workflow with Revizto and EVOLVE. And if I could click here. So housekeeping, just to kick things off, this is going to be recorded, or it is recorded. Hopefully you heard that when you came in. The links are going to be sent out tomorrow for all the registrants. We have the chat feature. You can use the chat feature to engage and ask and talk to other people. If you have questions, though, we would really appreciate you using the Q&A section of the webinar. It just lets us keep that nice and organized. We are going to have 2 polls during the webinar. One is going to be very soon, so get ready, and then the other one will be at the end. And then if you're interested in further webinars from us, you can follow that on LinkedIn. As far as the speakers go today, Matt, would you like to introduce yourself, sir, as the main attraction?
Thanks, Corey. I'm Matt Goshon. I'm a design manager at ArchKey Solutions. I focus more on the mission critical projects with the data centers has kind of been my focus.
Awesome. And Adam.
Yeah, Adam Heon. I'm the VP of product here at Evolve. Electrician by trade, turned software guy.
Nice, love it. And I'm Corey Klassen, for what it's worth. I'll be your moderator today, class clown. I am an electrician also by trade, come from the field, been doing this, I don't know, close to 20 years probably. And I am the industry consultant for MEPs here at Revizto. So I work with subcontractors and clients and users alike to help the experience and understanding of our software across the globe. So like I said, poll time. First one should be popping up on your screen right now. Really, this is just to get a gauge of the room today. Kind of what is your experience level with prefab? If you guys can just kind of quickly answer that. It's not going to be up there for very long. Just trying to gauge kind of where we are. A lot of people that have some experience, some new people. Well, welcome. Congratulations on your journey. It is going to be a fun one, albeit frustrating, but it will be good. If you're not involved with prefab, you should. It's a terrible time. No, I'm just kidding. It's really, really good. But thank you so much for joining today. I do hope you find some value anyway. And then we also have some champions. So hopefully, again, you'll find something valuable out of this. So thank you so much for answering those questions. All right, moving on. What is Revizto? Just a quick introduction into what our software is for anybody who's not familiar. We are one platform that just connects all the project members into one platform. So 2D drawings, 3D models, clash detection, field mobile apps. We're not just a BIM tool, we're a field tool as well. We play really, really well in that space and really just break down the barriers between your tech savvy folks and your people who may not be so tech savvy, giving them an easy platform to do that. We take all kinds of softwares, or not softwares, but file types. We're software agnostic, meaning pretty much any software that's being used for BIM and 3D construction right now, from an authoring side or even from like scans and stuff, we can accept and play with. And just as kind of an holistic overview of kind of where we fit into all of this thing, United data, single source, connected workflows, and accessibility. So that's Revizto from an extremely high level. And then Adam, if you want to run us through kind of the high level of what Evolve is and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks. So pretty basic what Evolve is. We are a software company. We are focused on the MEP trades. We started in 2018. Like I said, I'm an electrician by trade. I came out of the industry and started with Evolve as their electrical SME product manager. We worked under the Applied Software umbrella, which was an Autodesk reseller. around that time, we saw a significant gap in the trades as it related to the design process in Revit. A lot of people were still transitioning to Revit around that time. Some were early adopters, some not so much. So we saw the need, and basically what we did is we hit the road and traveled company to company across the country and talked to you guys and said, what are your problems and how can we help? And that's how we started. We just started solving problems based on what people were telling us. Um, Over the years, we grew. We've grown 30% year over year since then. Uh, Applied Software was acquired by Greatech, and Evolve broke out as our own company just a few years ago. So new endeavor at that point. And yeah, so we have four basic products that are on the market: Evolve Electrical, which we'll be talking about today. Then we have our mechanical version focused on M&P. And then recently we've launched our Evolve Shop product. So we're kind of trying to be more holistic and not be such a just a point solution in Revit, but really do the end to end from design, fabrication to eventually field. So the shop product is kind of the next step for us. 360 Sync document management software. It's more heavily on the project management side of things, synchronizing things like Procore, ACC, could be Dropbox, Bluebeam, basically just document management. I think there's like 20 something integrations we have there. And then also recently we launched our campaign, which is we're calling VDC OS, which is just our web development side of things, focused on the VDC side of things. We're pushing out things like usage analytics, productivity measurements, various things like that, that basically enhance the VDC and help manage the VDC as a department. That's not necessarily just focused on the Revit environment. So yeah, that's basically a good overview of us.
Awesome. Yeah, the VDC OS, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that and figure out what you guys are doing there. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Matt, it's your turn, man.
All right.
You're up, buddy.
What is ArchKey Solutions? Well, we're a top 10 EC built up of 4 regions: ArchKey West, which is our Sprig office; ArchKey North, which is our Parsons; and then ArchKey Central, which is our Saks office; and then ArchKey East, which is our Mona office. And then we also have a technologies group. All these regions come together and we work on our mission critical national projects. Our company is centered on the power of scale. This is our ability to push new boundaries by having the scale and resources to invest in our people and processes. So,
all right.
yeah.
So the crux of what we're here to talk about today, right? So the idea is that Matt's going to run us through, their workflow outline, and he's going to kind of show us where he injects Evolve, and then where Revizto it gets injected as well. So this is basically the 10 steps that they're running through. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, that you guys are doing pretty much on every project you guys are running right now, right?
Yes, sir. So I'll start with saying, you got tools like, Revizto, Revit, and Evolve. There's many ways that you can accomplish success. This workflow is just one that we've applied using lessons learned. If anybody else has ideas of how to polish this process up, hit me up on LinkedIn. Definitely interested in hearing that. Kind of going from there, we'll go through the step 1, which is your, laying out the modeling, and then modeling the content, kind of going through the review of the content, optimizing the content, and then exporting that content to Revizto, which then we do a save down model, which then we generate sheets, annotate sheets, and then go through and make sure the sheets have all the information. At that point, we issue the sheets and go from there.
Awesome. I advanced too soon on that one, but we're gonna go back and there you go. Made it right.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk first about, how does this whole thing begin, Matt? Like how do you guys get from, starting point 0? What are you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Adam go ahead and speak about the initial configuration, because this part is a critical piece. is the very first step is how to, configure Evolve.
Yeah, so this is a important part of for us as well. I mean, this is critical for all Evolve users is understanding like what needs to be set up, what's configurable, that type of thing. I mean, when you, like I said, we traveled across the country and talked to all kinds of companies, and everybody has a basic way of doing things. We're all building buildings, but there's always these nuances where your expertise lies is different, skill levels are different, company structures are different. So Evolve in general is very customizable. It can do a lot of different things. But to what Matt's saying is getting that right setup is critical. So things like sheet setup, understanding your Revit standards, what are your view templates that you use? What are those outputs look like? What do your schedules look like? Basically, especially when you're talking about spooling and generating sheet creation, you have to establish those standards early on so that, when you click that easy button, the output is what you want it to be. This is something we are internally working on too, on improving and try to get more out of the box templates and configurations set up so that a user coming in for the first time can actually get an output. It may not be exactly what they want, but it's something to start with. So that's a huge thing that we're focused on over the last year.
Yeah. And kind of to piggyback off what Adam said here. So the vendor information, that gathering and making sure that you're gathering the vendor information. So you will export out of Evolve. You will then provide this schedule or spreadsheet to the prefab. They will go through and populate it based on the vendor they're using. That at this point, and then at that point is when you import that schedule back into Evolve, so that when you're creating your schedules, your bombs, your bend information, that it's actually going to be aligning with what you're using in the prefab warehouse. The final thing I want to mention is just, having all your templates configured, like Adam said, the sheets, but having full team buy-in on what the sheet layout is going to be, what information is needed, so that when you do go to generate sheets, you're not making tweaks, changes, modifications, or you generate all these sheets, you annotate, you get it to the prefab, and then they look at it and there's information needed still for them to be able to be successful. So getting that early buy-in and alignment and testing what you're anticipating to spool on the front end.
Yeah, and the alignment goes beyond even just the VDC department too, because oftentimes we're talking and it's like, well, what is prefab expecting? What do they actually need, right? And what does the field need? What are they expecting? And kind of understanding that, keeping that, that communication loop is actually happening is so important.
Yeah, I mean, that just cannot be overstated enough. Having those conversations before you guys start actually drawing is super, super important. And Adam and I know Matt too. Like we've been out in the field, we've seen these drawings, and we're just like, what am I looking at, right? Like this is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, just having those conversations and making sure everybody's getting what they need is critical for sure.
So just funny, common thing I'll tell people is, you don't get it right on the first time, but what you do is like when you send a drawing to the fab or to field, ask for it back after they're done with it. Look at all the notes they make. Look at all the red lines they make. That's time spent figuring things out that maybe should have been on the drawing. So it's a good practice to have to, continually improve.
Yeah, 100%. All right,
Yeah.
so we've got everything set up, right? We've had the conversations. Now what are we doing, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a basic concept where a lot of ECs, I'm sure, are doing, or even other contractors are probably doing the same process, where you're gonna export once you have everything configured. You're gonna export your conduit run information schedule from Evolve, and then one of the things we do is we'll then mark it up in Bluebeam or whatever, do our layout, and then embed our metadata to match the parameters of the spreadsheet, so that when the constructability specialist then finishes the layout, they embed the metadata that then will get imported we export the CSV from Bluebeam, and then we import that directly into Evolve. So then basically, as you're modeling the content and you're finished modeling, you would then assign that metadata or that BIM data to each conduit. Why is that? One of the things that I love about Evolve in this aspect is, we all kind of go through, you lay out this pretty conduit, you got everything routed and everything looks great. You go to coordination, and then, as an EC, I feel like we move a lot more than other trades. I might be biased, but at that point, you're then splicing, cutting, adding offsets, removing that BIM data. Well, with the Evolve tool, it reduces, it automates the process of, after you've trimmed it back together, it relabels that newly added content so that you're not did somebody remember to go back and do it? How many iterations of labeling of that content need to occur before it's time to actually complete the sheet? So then when you go to tag or different things, you might have chunks and pieces that aren't labeled in the earlier way of manually tabbing through. Did I get the whole run? Oh, there was a pull box. I needed, there was a lot of factors that occurred. This process, as you're going through coordination, you don't have to worry about your conduit BIM data. Why is conduit data important during this step of the process? Well, our constructability specialists will go through, after we're done modeling, we then provide our constructability specialist, we push to Revizto, they review it there. Well, having the BIM data, the to, the from, the run IDs, that information allows them to make accurate and good decisions. They don't have to follow the whole conduit every single time just to figure out, well, where does this conduit go? Well, they already have the BIM data on the front end, so they're making accurate and good decisions as they're doing their QA QC of the constructability of the content.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just want to make this a little bit simpler. When we're talking about the information that you guys are using in your detailing process, you're talking about like the system type, the size, the where the from and to information, the conduit run ID maybe. That's the stuff that you're talking about gets populated and then exported into Evolve, then comes down into Revit, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got, your parallel quantities, your to, your from, your sizes, your material, if it's EMT, RMC, that information is given to the modeler on the front end, which allows the constructability person to hold the modeler accountable, but it also helps the modeler to understand without having to have numerous questions or Teams calls or whatever. They have all the data they need on the front end to be successful.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Steve. All right. So then from there, we're going to model red lines.
Yes, sir. So a lot of people, when they think of Evolve, they think it's a prefab and spooling tool, which you would be correct, but it also has other tools inside of Evolve that allow you to be more efficient in other aspects besides just spooling. One of those would be the modeling. I'll kind of just show the two examples right here. You'll see the picture on the left where you got a group of conduit, and and then you got another group of conduit. Well, the old way of, you would have to trim each one, click, trim, and go through, with Evolve's multi-trim, you swipe one group, swipe another group, hit finish, it auto, and then you'll look at the picture right next to it. You'll see that it auto connected all of them at the same time. That saves you time. So then looking at the other picture, you'll see, well, the smart multi-trim, you have two groupings of conduits that are at different elevations. Normally you'd throw sections, start doing your thing when you're modeling, create the offsets, do this. Well, this is the same kind of process. You swipe one group, swipe the other. Well, you do the smart multi-trim. All of a sudden, it is going to automatically connect your conduit. So you're not going through and creating an offset, temporary hiding, creating an offset, temporary hide, or creating an offset, copying, and then connecting. You're not having to go through those manual processes. You're swiping, done, moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's so handy. Love that.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now we got everything modeled, right? We're doing this now. Now we're starting to talk about constructability review. Who's involved at this step, and why is this so important for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I'm gonna go through the kind of the process, but really, we all know as a modeler, it's your job to QA/QC your own work first, obviously. So I'm not gonna go through that process because we all should be checking our own content before we saying it's ready to be reviewed. So once it's ready to be reviewed and you've told the constructability specialist, basically, they're gonna go ahead and we're pushing this content to Revizto. At that point, there's this issue tracker tool. Well, I'm, going through the stamps first. So what are stamps? You'll see on the screen, there's multiple stamps on the right-hand side in the issue tracker. Well, what stamps do is allow for automation. So, you might have a clash stamp. You might have, RFI stamp. You might have all these different stamps. And what a stamp really does, it auto-populates or allows an automation to occur in the way you pre-configure it. So if I want a clash to go to automatically, every clash should go to this person, and then this BIM manager is going to assign it to his team to resolve the clashes. Well, you can set on the stamp that this type of issue will automatically be assigned to this user. We'll add these 5 watchers because they might not be the person that are fixing the problem, but they need to have visibility to be aware that there is a problem out there. Just allows this allows open communication and not having that siloed conversations or hide, maybe there's an issue or a clash and, oh, we'll have a call about it. Well, only maybe this people on this call are aware. The issue tracker really brings insight to everyone that there's an issue. And if you're going into the sheet process or different things, these issues need to be resolved before you're starting that process. Just to kind of, this process might take numerous iterations. You might have little tweaks. The modeler gives it to the constructability specialist, and after he sees it in the model, he might have a few modifications, and then he'll send that issue back to the modeler, and then this process will go until the constructability specialist says this is buildable. The thing that I really like about the issue tracker, to be honest, is you have the ability to see on the picture right there in front of you the 2D image of the issue. Well, you can also click the 3D button right above the 2D, and this allows you to get more context. Maybe the issue didn't have enough information and you're like, what really is the problem? Well, without having to go fly all over the model, you hit the 3D button, you're actually able then to rotate, pivot, do those things to then understand, oh, now I understand what the issue is so that I can work on it. Once you know the issue, I would like to, talk about the favorites. So the favorites, the property favorites are important and huge. They save time. It allows you, you can highlight over items. You can set your pre-configuration to your favorites. You can see, maybe I want to see, it's user specific. So maybe I want to see it one way and Corey wants to see it another, but I can still see the data that I want to see, the run ID, the trade size, all that, by just highlighting over whatever content. One tip and trick that I would say that helps us or me save time to, once you find the issue in Revizto, well, how do I find it in Revit? Well, one of the things that I like to do is use the element ID of the conduit or the property or the element that it has the issue. So then I'll grab that element ID, copy it straight from Revizto, go into Revit, and then you can search for this element ID. It'll automatically select that element. You can then 3D that element and isolate it if you'd like, or you can let it find a view that shows this element on there, and that's in Revit. So then the efficiency, here's the issue. Now I can solve it quicker without having to go fly the entire model, have 5 Teams calls, where is the problem? I see the issue, but I don't see it in the model type of conversations.
Matt,
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about our switchback function, Matt. It just make that even better for you, buddy.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
I had a question, Matt. Like, so the constructability specialist, that seems to be more of a common role, like you mentioned earlier before we were talking, goes by many names. Is that person also a liaison between the field and VDC? And I assume they're looking more than just, can I build it? It's, can I fabricate it? How will I fabricate it? Like, is that what that looks like?
Yeah, that's a great comment, Adam. So that constructability specialist, they're having numerous iterations with the GF on the job. This is their scope. They're before they even go into doing the layout, we've already had conversations with the GF, what they're anticipating, what they're expecting. But then you're correct. Once you get to the modeling, it might be buildable, but that doesn't mean it's the best solution for prefab, or it makes the most sense in saving labor hours in the field. So that constructability specialist is an expert in the field that then understands the BIM tools and workflows to allow us to get it right the first time.
Very cool. Makes sense.
All right, so now we've done the review. We're all good to go. We've got sign off buy-in. Now we're gonna optimize.
Yes, sir. So what is spooling to me? Well, spooling is basically, when you model content in Revit, you might have a straight that's 500 feet. Well, that is not, the information we want to be able to have. Evolve has allowed, adding couplings. So we might have a run, and then you will then optimize that run and add couplings or unions on how they call it. Well, then you're taking that stick of conduit that really can't be purchased from anywhere, and you're breaking it down to billing a material that you can then, I know I need 5 10-foot sticks or whatever. And you start seeing the real prefab materials that allow everyone to understand the quantities and everything related to it. So that's kind of what the spooling is. You're taking Revit, content and breaking it down to actually being able to utilize that information further in the prefab or or in the field. I'll kind of go through one thing that's kind of been a lesson learned is, just understanding you might be spooling overhead, and let's say you're spooling EMT. Well, when it comes to spooling RMC, there's different ways, because when you're spooling RMC, the coupling comes part of that 10-foot stick, or it's all one piece. On a 10-foot stick of EMT, it's actually 10 foot. Well, so you just got to make sure you're understanding, looking at the information of the product data of what prefab is going to use, so that when you go to optimize and add the unions and start looking at the information, that what you're doing is aligning with what prefab's ordering and has on hand. That's one of the biggest things I would say, just kind of pay attention to as you're spooling different types of material, understand what you're actually getting on the front end. And then, like, what is a spool? We keep saying this word. Well, it's an assembly. Revit calls it an assembly. So basically after you've optimized your content, you would then optimize your bends. So then when you optimize a bend, you're basically allowing the information, which then when we generate a sheet, it'll pre-populate the Mark 1, all the different information of how to bend the conduit or the offset or whatever type of bend it is. You also say you're using factory fittings. You can still utilize this. You just would change the bend to a factory fitting at that point. So you can still use both solutions. Maybe you're not bending anything, but you can still prefab and spool. And when you get your billing of material, it'll actually tell you if it's a factory fitting versus, a bent piece. So the next step after you kind of go through and you optimize everything is defining the spools. So you go through and you define your spools, which is, it could be like 10-foot sections, or it's your buildable kits, paying attention to you would need to have conversations with prefab before you start this process, because they might want their spools in certain sizes or their kits because of logistical reasons. Maybe they got a truck that they're transporting it to the site. It doesn't allow for, this big of a kit to fit in the truck. Or maybe they're taking it in a man lift, so you got to keep it in this size. Or, those are items that you need to predetermine before you start spooling. What are your logistical reasoning behind defining your spools, so that you're not creating spools that they're going to not be able to build and ship directly to site.
Yeah, so these are what, like the Lego pieces, right? To the master plan.
Yes, sir.
You guys have a very unique thing, and maybe it's not unique, but maybe I've just never heard anybody say it quite how you've said it. When you guys create your spools and break out the model, you guys are saving down a model, right? That's just spool only. Can you just, why do you do that? And like, what's the reasoning behind that? And what benefits do you see from that?
Yeah. So, I mean, so once you get to the process where you've assembled all your spools, we pin all the elements. At this point in time, there's no changes to modeling. So modeling is done. We then save our model down after we create our color map in the central models. So then at that point, we save it down. And then this allows the team of annotators or spoolers that are going to go through and generate the sheets and all this in a outside model, so that you don't run into permissions issues, sync issues, all of that. You're done modeling. All you're doing is annotating and detailing sheets at this point. So there's no real reason that you need to be in the central model. And, when you start getting on these mega national jobs, you will have a lot of people in one model. Any way you can keep the number of people out of your model so that your sync timing is better is a win. So that's kind of the way we're looking at it. It's not needed to be in the central model. We have the color map. So then we're doing all the annotating in the outside model. One other thing though, so I mentioned generating the sheets in the save down model. So really we have three main types of templates, which kind of going back to what Adam was talking about when he was saying, when you start your evolve configuration of your templates, we have three main types of templates. We got a color map, we got a box drawing, and then we got a spool drawing. And what I mean by that, so you have different configurations to the template. What you define on the configuration of the template is when you hit generate, it will then automatically find the views, sections, 3D views, schedules that relate to the content you're generating the sheet from. So if you're generating a box drawing, you might have different views, schedules, and content for the prefab team to be able to build that spool. So, you got a different, you might have a actual spool with conduit and supports. You're going to use the spool template. We have a lot of different spool templates, which relates to each type of bin. So the person that's generating the sheet, if they have a back-to-back on this spool, they would use their spooling template that relates to that, so that the schedule for that information and the view and all the legends and everything are automatically placed based on whatever type of sheet you're generating.
Gotcha. So like in specific scenarios, you guys have specific templates for your 2D drawings that just happen automatically when you say, okay, I need this content. This is what it's going to look like versus, a different type of content.
Yeah. So like after we're done generating, that's when your person is going in and they're detailing each sheet, adding dimensions, tagging, renumbering, whatever that process is that you've already pre-aligned with the prefab and field of what they need. At that point, you're just going through the motions of getting all the annotations correct.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So from that point, like how are you guys then moving this into you know, I guess we're moving into what installation, material delivery, that type of thing?
Yeah, so while the sheet is being annotated and built, really what's going on is we've already exported, so we've already spooled, we've already pinned our content, we already have all our assemblies, and we've already exported to Revizto. Well, while the sheet is being created, you then have the ability, you know, obviously the VDC team can pull a schedule or a bomb straight from Revit, but while we're working on the sheets, the prefab field team or project management team can come into Revizto, and based on the assembly information, you can see on the screen right there where we're using the selection inspector, and then they're able to come into Revizto themselves, pull the information directly from Revizto and export a CSV. So this is really showcasing the efficiency. You're not waiting for the sheet to start your ordering of your material. Modeling's done. We're just working on annotating sheets. So this is, you're not waiting for one step to complete. You're simultaneously being able to do two steps. They're ordering the material, you're finishing the sheet so that they have the material in the warehouse for when you complete the sheet.
Yeah, I think this is really important. You know, a lot of my communications that I had with the field when I was sitting in the coordination office was, hey, I need a quantity, I need a takeoff, I need this, that, the other thing. You know, really being able to set this up for your project team and just showing them a couple button clicks to say, hey, you can pull this yourself. So that's so valuable to be able to have, especially for somebody who's heads down trying to model or annotate or do all this other stuff. Like just those short interruptions can really mess up their stuff. And not everybody uses this, but more and more people are finding this to be a really reliable way for them to get the information they need, just for a quick back check to make sure that their bulk buys were good, or whatever the case may be here. So this is a really good use, and I'm happy to hear that you guys are being successful with this side of it.
Yes, sir.
So then from there, we're going to move it into kind of the nuts and bolts, like down and dirty, right? We've done all this stuff. Now we just need to do the annotation of the sheets. Then we're gonna QA/QC them, right? And this is just leaders and cleaning up the sheet to make sure it looks pretty, the typical stuff, right? Just so that there's not really anything confusing. If there's something missing, you'll have them say, hey, like, oh, I need a dimension here, or whatever the case may be for that, right?
Exactly.
Anything else that I missed on this one?
No, I mean, mostly it's, there's information the field and prefab team have to have. So, when you're creating a package, example, one of the last data centers we were working on, we had, about 4,000 sheets to complete the whole building. Well, you have a ton of sheets you're going through, your annotators, your detailers are going through, and they're annotating, they might miss something. They might forget a dimension, or the tag isn't there, or something like that. So we're just making sure, like, because a lot of times you don't want when the prefab team is running like a manufacturing group, they're just spitting out content, building stuff. Well, you don't want to get to a point where they're calling you the process is in halt because they don't have a dimension or they don't have a tag. So doing the QA/QC just make sure all the content that prefab needs, they have.
Gotcha. Yeah, prefab and field, right? Because it looks like
sir.
This is BOM over here for fab, and then on the left would be this type of overlap measurements for install, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, so then so I guess we're leveraging Revizto again at this point, right? And where does this kind of fall into your guys' scheme, and how are you guys setting this up and using this?
Yeah, so right here is where we're kind of looking at the color map. So like I said, this color map is then created in the central model. It can then be pushed to Revizto. It has the metadata behind the location, which is amazing. So you can see the little house in the corner of the sheet. Well, what's really going on is once the sheet is pushed to Revizto, you can then go to the 2D area of Revizto, click the house in the left-hand corner, and it'll lay the sheet exactly where the sheet exists in the model, which you can see in the picture above. This is a great feature. It allows a lot of context between sheets. You can do this also with engineer sets of model or sheets, which allows, you might be having mechanical equipment that you need to power or different things. You want to make sure you can overlay their sheet, the mechanical drawing onto the electrical or onto our model. We can make sure we have a conduit that's going to provide power.
And I really like how you have this set up using the baked in information from Evolve, right? With the package IDs that you guys are using. So
Yes,
you're
sir.
not only using this as a way to visualize things, but you're actually taking Evolve property information and pulling that forward into making it more understandable for the field, right?
Yeah. And on that note, so you have the 2D overlay, but what makes this even better, it allows the field and prefab team more success is then creating an appearance profile. So out of the box, Revit uses ends with 1, colorizes the assembly red, ends with 2, colorize the assembly blue, or what the colors are not important, but it is the important part of this is the operator ends with. So how are you able to use ends with inside Revizto so that you can colorize your kits so that you can not only overlay your 2D sheet, you can also colorize your conduit in the 3D world to match the kits. Well, what you can do is utilizing Revizto, they have this wild card. So what a wild card is it ignores all the information except for the information you see, because you can see the wildcard 1. That means ignore everything except for 1, which is basically the same thing as Revit saying if it ends with 1. So this is a filter. So you're filtering the content. So if it ends with 1, I want this red. So this evolve data is pushed into Revizto. We then create these appearance profilers that are colorizing the 3D conduit or the conduit to match the color map. So you have a 2D sheet, you have a 3D element. This really reduces the number of calls or issues that the BIM group's going to get, because the field is able to come in here and see and measure, do whatever, because, a lot of times context is lost on a 2D sheet. Being able to overlay the 2D on the 3D is great, but also being able to change your 3D to match your 2D is where it really allows, it reduces the human error of missing information. Well, is it this spool? No, it's this spool. No, you immediately know because it matches the color and the tag.
Love it.
Cool.
All right, so quickly we're going to touch on this just to be conscious of time. We're about 14 minutes from the top of the hour. And we do have a couple of questions already coming through, so I want to make sure we have some time to get to those. So if I'm not mistaken, this is a newer feature to Evolve, Adam, with the I don't know when this came out.
Enhanced feature.
Enhanced. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yes.
So yeah, Matt, let's run through this and let's talk about it.
Yeah, so previously I was a big Autodesk point layout person. There was some features they had that were great. Now Evolve with their new update, we're utilizing Evolve strictly for Trimble. It's great. They have all the same features, if not more now. So they've really updated the tool to make, that's just another license that I don't need to worry about or to have to assign. So a pain point was you'd have to assign a license. Well, we might only have 3 APL licenses. Well, everybody has Evolve. We all can Trimble. We can all export Trimble. And I'll kind of go through one of the biggest things is nesting points. I know a lot of people, this is not a new idea, but you can nest your Evolve points in your families, in your vaults, in your ground rods, your test wells, your hangers, your supplemental steel. And then as the modeler models that content, it's auto trembling because it's nested inside the family. Then you just got to go through, label your nested points, which you can see on the screen. We're in the point manager labeling the nested points. Why is that important? Well, we all know the old way of Trimble took a long time. One, and there was the human error. Did they hit every Trimble point exactly on the bottom of the gear, exactly at the bottom of the equipment window? Did they, as they're doing thousands of points, you have risk of having errors.
Awesome. So we've gone through all of this. We've gotten all the way to here, right? Now we got the install fab kits on site, right? So this is what? This is end product. Checking this out. So walk me through this.
Yeah. So this is basically, when it comes to underground, I'm not spooling as much, but these underground racks are critical. So this is where you're stubbing up either in the building, into gear, into equipment. You need, you want to be able to, reduce the labor hours. This is a time consumer. Being able to model all of the content, spool the content, the rack, you can see the dimensions match the rack. The dimensions for the conduit are blue. So we've, tried to make it look pretty easy. Okay, if it's a blue dimension, it's for the conduit. And then you can see in the picture, the conduit and everything's matching the drawing. And then this is just another example where you have all the conduit labeled or content. You got the rack itself on the right-hand side of the detail 4. Well, you look at the cut list, those numbers tell you exactly what to cut, how to build the rack. This allows prefab to have this done ahead of time. So then when the ditch gets open, they drop the rack, which has the nested Trimble points like we were just talking about, which has 4 corners and the centers of the conduit. So you're already dropping it and then you're ready to install.
Matt, are those racks standard like families that you guys built? Kind of drag and drop parametric things?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is one thing that has been huge. Evolve has a library that it allows us to have, I can go from job to job to job and look at a billing of material or a cut list or whatever, and they have the same Evolve descriptions. Like this rack right here, the hangers, any of the content you're modeling and spooling, you have this Evolve family browser that has all this content. So you already are standardizing and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very cool stuff.
And then so from BIM to install, right? Like that's what we really want. That's what we're going for, right? And this is just an amazing example of a very complex, well, maybe not complex, but very congested area. And I'll say that with a absolute ton of different conduits and things. So this is really an impressive feat to come from start to finish.
From click to brick. I like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
From click
sir.
to brick. I love that actually. That's really good. Really good.
Yeah. It's satisfying also just being able to see as you're modeling and then you see the end result and you're able to go out there, you can scan the AR with Revizto and you can see your content is actually lining up in the model, and it's, you're reducing labor hours in the field, which is the goal.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Matt. This has been really, really cool, man. I appreciate you. So I did a sneak peek. The next slide is going to be another poll. It's already up right now. It's, if you have interest in some things or your customer, just fill that out. I'm just going to leave that up for a little bit and then we're going to move on to to the next slide. Hopefully I can actually click it. So we've come to the Q&A section of the webinar today. There was a couple questions that came out early. So Brian had a question about menu of options that could be presented to the field and prefab shop for them to actually know what's available. I don't know if that's a question for Adam or for Matt, but it was when we were talking about filling out the vendor information and stuff like that. So what do we have that exists between Evolve and what you guys are doing, Matt?
Yeah, I think Adam, this would probably be a better question for him because there's a ton of different parameters and data in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the question presented to the field and fab to know what's available.
As far as like, I think he's referring to the like the bender types and or other information
Oh,
that
yeah,
the
yeah.
prefab would need to know or could answer that would better fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, all like when we're talking about bends, all the bend information is calculated based on a bend spec, and that can be set up by project. So we put in the standard industry benders, your triple nickel, your 855, your 881. I think we even have some of the south wire benders in there that are coming out. Um, so yeah, really it's you set it up to the benders that your company uses, and that's the calculated values we use. And you can even tweak those if you find there's variances needed.
Gotcha. And I was completely off base. He did follow up with the view templates for Evolve. So what is there like a shop
Oh,
that you can go look at and say, I want this view, that view, this view? Or how do we understand kind of what's
yeah.
available for the
So the
shop
view
guys?
template's really driven by your project template. We ship with a project template that's got some basics for mostly for people starting out from scratch. But the way the tools work, it's basically you set your view template you want. So it's really open-ended.
So like Matt, like how did you guys land on like plan, elevation, ISO, and parts? Like how did you end up there? Like
Uh,
is there other things that are exist or no?
I mean, I think that's kind of the base out of the box evolve sample. Is that true? I know we've gone through and tweaked and modified what was out of the box to apply it to exactly, what our project team is expecting. But a lot of the base information is pre-set up, and then now we have it included in our Revit template. A lot of the information because you have the ability to export profiles from from Evolve to be able to give it to other people, and that sort of thing.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, cool. And then there was two questions almost at the exact same time. Noah came in first. Sorry, Z, but when there are content changes on the ingoing project, like you've already separated out your spool Revit model. How are you dealing with RFIs that come in or change orders or even just coordination issues in general that may have been late to the game? How are you guys kind of addressing that and how are you managing that between two different models?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have RFIs ever, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Must be nice.
Yeah, no, it is a difficult situation and hard question to answer specifically, but kind of one of the workflows that we've kind of applied. So let's say an RFI comes out. I mean, it's all about timing too. When does the RFI come out? Did I just save the model down? Did I already generate the sheet? Did I already publish the sheet? Did the prefab already build the sheet? So it kind of depends on the timing of when the RFI hits, because if the RFI hits and I'm not published or I haven't issued the drawing, we might make the change and then save the model down. But if I've already generated the sheets, gone through it, we have people on our team that are very skilled and, with scripting and different things. So like we might change the content on the sheet if we, while we're in the save down model, and then push it back to the central model. It's not as much of a pain as you would think, depending on the level of RFI. But if it's an RFI, usually we're gonna get paid. That's kind of the information. It came late to the game. We got information, whatever. So we're making we will make the change, but this actually gives us a save down model that we would then be able to put on the sheets and be able to name on the file that we're saving down so that you have the information. You might have two file names with the exact same spooling content, but then you might name it RFI 271 so that you know what happened and why you had to go back.
So
I
it's
hope that
almost giving
answered
you
it.
guys like a stopgap, right? Because I think the
Exactly.
part that we didn't really talk about was that you guys are pinning down anything that goes over to the fab.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say fab model, but so that when if something were to change or something had to be adjusted, it's going to be pinned, and nothing else would be pinned unless it's already over into that model. right?
Exactly.
So you would already not the model would already know that, hey, like we got to see where this is at in the process.
Exactly.
So it kind of gives
100%.
that stopgap.
Yes,
Cool.
Corey.
Anything else? We got about 2 more minutes. Ask us anything. I mean, you could ask me what my favorite color is. Whatever the case may be. Going once. Twice. Oh, it is Tatum. I know it is. It's a dangerous offer, but it's out there. It's out there. How long is implementation? Is that directed towards Evolve
Configuration?
or Revizto?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Both. Adam, I'll let you take that first. How long does it take to get Evolve up and running?
Yeah, to do what we've seen here. For us, our implementation is more one-on-one type consulting type stuff. So there's like the picks and clicks on how a tool works, but really it's our engagement on how does it work for you. So most people have some types of standards in place and process in place. So we try to build our tool to be very customizable so that it can adapt and not drastically change what you're doing today, just enhance it. So it's not like in 4 weeks you're here. It's a process. There's a lot of stuff you can do and hit the ground running. But as you dive deeper, it just takes time to learn and grow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
I'll
then
kind of
Matt, from
jump
your
off of
side,
that
like what
one.
was it? What
Yeah.
did it take for you guys to do it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so this has kind of been this is something that is very important and needs to be talked about and discussed on the front end. Going through lessons learned, the field might be saying, hey, I need spool sheets tomorrow. Well, if we haven't done the front end configurations on day one and starting the prep process, it's not a turn the light switch on and you're ready to spool. There's I would say it takes us 2 to 3 weeks to, just in realistic timelines. I export, the vendor information. Well, I got to get it to, to the prefab group, and then they're going to go ahead and fill it all out. And then a couple days later, they might send it back, or maybe next week. And then while we're waiting on that, we're doing other configurations related to the templates. The configuration is not long. It's getting all the right people in the right room to do it right the first time. Because if you rush the process and don't do it the right way, you're not going to get the result you're expecting and wanting.
Fair. Yeah, and I mean, I guess from the Revizto side of things, the information's coming from from authoring software. So that part of it is, the amount of time it takes to export. Creating the appearance templates and stuff is pretty fast. Also, a couple minutes. Stamp setup, depending on what you're looking on doing there, maybe a couple hours based on a conversation. I don't know. It's really not hard from our side to pick up the information that we're getting. And then being able to run through it. Understanding how to use Revizto, our onboarding is usually like 60 days from and that would be an entire project team. But that's kind of where that's at.
I think one thing on that though, once you've kind of you spent the time on Revizto, developing your company standards, you then have a lot of the ability to templatize to pass it to the next job. Is that right, Corey?
Yeah, I mean so initial setup wise, I mean we do a lot of templating for sure. I mean there's so many templates and things that you can just pull over to the next project. So it's really initial setup, and then from there it's just massaging to the project specific stuff. And then there's one last question, and then we're gonna call it. Is what type of feedback have you received, Matt, from the field teams since you started to implement this?
Yeah, so early on there was a lot of learning curves, I'll say. I just wrapped up, a job. We did 16% to 18% of total prefab on 4 data centers. Utilizing the Evolve tool, we were able to have all the prefab sitting in the warehouse, before the finished floor was even poured. So as soon as the floor got done, we were already installing our kits. So the buy-in, everyone likes to win. So if you do it right, you get it right. Everybody enjoys each group and department and respects and appreciates the value versus the old way. You know, I came from the prefab warehouse building racks. You know, it was, you know, us against design. Well, now it's all of us against the world.
It's still us against design.
Ah!
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, thanks everybody so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. Again, I really hope that you guys learned something, found something valuable out of this, and it wasn't a waste, because that would make me very sad. Matt, Adam, thank you so much again for your help and input on this. It's been really, really great working with you guys on this. Everybody else, have a fantastic rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to hydrate, stay safe, do all the things. And we'll talk soon. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.